Blondie were and are a new wave band from New York. They formed in 1974. Their first album came out in 1976. They had loads of success, particularly in the UK and in Australia. They were considered a bit of an underground band in the US. They released five more albums before they disbanded in 1982. Their frontperson and singer Debbie Harry had a solo career for a while with mixed success. In 1999, they reformed and they had a major hit with the single Maria. And they've squeezed out four more studio albums since then, and they're still going. Uh, they're an iconic band. They're sitting on the poppy side of new wave slash punk, and they brought some of the energy and the attitude from punk into the mainstream. Uh, they sound at times like a rocked up version of 1960s girl group music, uh, and that kind of harking back to 60s and even 50s vocal stuff is not unusual for American uh, punk inspired music as well. But they're actually quite varied in sound. Debbie Harry's voice is very recognizable. She's got a good voice, and they've definitely used her as an iconic front person. Um, and their music is great, but they also have this added selling power because of having an attractive front person. Um, the the backing, the musical backing, can be somewhat unusual because it has quite heavy use of rock organ at times. So this was Blondie's second album, and it's fairly new to me. I have heard it before. I haven't had a copy of it, so I'm coming to it fairly fresh. I'm going to step sideways a little bit and talk about new wave right now because I feel like I'm starting to get a feel for what new wave might mean. The previous album I reviewed was Nick Lowe's album, and he's described as new wave, and it got me thinking, what is this thing called new wave? So I've got a theory, I've got some ideas. So it's not punk, it's come in the wake of punk and was often, or certainly to my mind, was thought of as being the poppifying of punk. But I don't think that that's actually the best way of thinking about it. Um, I think it might be better to think of it as being making rock or even singer-songwriter stuff less expansive and more kind of tight and immediate. And I was using words like tight for the Niccolo album. Um, so I would say it's generally fairly fast, energetic, but not heavy. It's crisp and tight. It hasn't got this expansive feel of a lot of rock at the time. So it's more poppy. It feels like you're in a smaller room listening to it. So it makes it more intimate in that sense. It does have energy. Though I think one of the defining characteristics, though, is that it tends to be quite intelligent songwriting and varied musically, which makes me think back to what might have been thought of as art rock back in the 70s. But we're now moving into the end of the 70s and into the 80s. So some of that kind of variation and intelligence to it has come through. Anyway, right, I'm going to focus now on this album. One of the reasons for talking about that is because actually I think that's a really good description of this album. It's all those things. It's good new wave, I would say. There are some hits that I know here. Denis, which apparently is a cover of a song called Denise. Can't remember who by off the top of my head, sorry. Touched by Your Presence. I've heard I'm on E before, so I went and looked this up because my immediate thought of I'm on E is about ecstasy, but this predates certainly the popularity of ecstasy. So having looked it up, I found out actually it means I'm on empty, and it refers to when you have the fuel gauge in a car and it's got to the E rather than the F for the full. So I'm on E, which means I'm on empty. So it's about running on empty. Cautious Lip, which is the last track, I quite like. It's got a fairly different feel to it. It's quite menacing, and I like that. It's also got some more anarchic music in it. Again, it's not punk, it's more kind of into almost the edge of progressive stuff there. But Yeah, I liked it. Overall, the album, it's enjoyable, it's accessible, it's fun, it's not boring, it's got quite a bit to it. So yeah, I enjoyed it.